Okay, I'm doing a quick overview or run through on layers in Adobe Illustrator. You have to excuse me, I'm still waking up here. Basically, uh, if you're familiar with Photoshop, what I'm going to do is walk through this with that familiarity. Um, and understanding what layers in Photoshop. Now, Photoshop has folders which you can contain layers in, and Illustrator is similar to that. Instead of creating a new folder, you're creating a new layer or a container, and this container will contain all the content that you are adding and manipulating on your artboard. So, text layer 1. This is in layer 1 because default settings and so on and so forth. Now I'm working with a CMYK color format, so my colors are going to be a little bit different if you're working with an RGB. Nothing to worry about. Now, as you can see, the layer when I created this text on the artboard, it already added it to the layer that I was already on, which is the only layer there. It made a drop down arrow to show me that there's content in there, and it has these little icons on the right side showing me that the object I'm currently selected on is within this layer. If I drop down, then it'll show me where it is in that layer. Alright, this is essentially the same concept in Photoshop, except in Photoshop you can continue adding content to that layer. And that's why I said that the layers in Illustrator are more like a container. It contains all of the objects that you're going to be using or that you're manipulating. Um, if I go in here and just randomly start creating things, you could start seeing them pile up in my layers. Now, when you start working with arranging things in the layers, so this is the first star that I created, which is all the way down at the bottom. If I go to Object and Arrange and bring to Front, it will move that selected object all the way to the front or top of the layer. Um, you can go deeper than this, just like in Photoshop with folders, and start stacking them and make hierarchies of them. More complicated hierarchies if you wish. It's all a matter of how you like to organize your work. Um, each person has a different, technique, feel, style to what they do. Now, when you continue, just playing around with this, you'll start seeing, patterns, seeing how it works. You do not always have to use the object and arrange to move things around, which is a neat thing about using the layer palette. You can simply just move them in the layer palette itself. So if I want all of these stars to be behind, in front of this bar, I'm going to select the path or that bar and take it all the way to the back or the bottom, and voila, it's behind. Then this layer text, I want that in front of the bar but behind the stars. So I will simply move that to behind all of these stars in my layers, and there we go. So it is something to play with and get familiar with. If you create a new layer, it's the same concept as your first layer that you're just manipulating, and the only difference is that you're working on a new layer. Okay. You can edit the color. As you can see, when I move this is blue. When I move this, or red. See, I'm still waking up, and I was thinking this is blue. So this one is blue, this one is red. You can go into your layer options here, either by clicking a small arrow and going to options for layer 2, or just double click on layer 2, and then go ahead and change this to whatever color suits your needs. So for me, I wanted that yellow, so now when I move this, it's actually a yellow, which might be hard to see in the video, but it helps depending on what you're working over, what your background is, and it makes things a little easier to separate when you're working on certain layers that you can color code it. Again, the complexity level is determined by you and your style. That's basically it for working with layers, or a quick run through on that. and I'll try to show some manipulations that I use with it a little later.